Overhype Studios have been teasing their newest game MENACE since 2023. Best known as the developers of 2D turn-based RPG Blood Brothers, MENACE switches up the setting to sci-fi, swaps mercenaries for mech suits, and makes the leap to beautifully boxy retro-futuristic 3D graphics. But, as we found out when we sat down with Overhype at Gamescom, MENACE still shares the same DNA as its medieval forebear.
Put down every dog!
How did your time with Battle Brothers influence your approach to MENACE?
We aimed for having a game that's very different from Battle Brothers, at the same time feels like Battle Brothers. So what for us makes Battle Brothers a good game is it generates stories, it gives players freedom, and it has like in very intense moments where really clutch moments that are exciting and where decisions really matter. And at the same time, we wanted it to be a little bit less frustrating and a little bit easier to get into, because Battle Brothers is very hard to get into, and making it a little bit more approachable would go a long way. Also creatively, we put it into a sci-fi setting because we needed a creatively like a new room to work in, and the fantasy realm was like really done for us now, and we needed like a completely fresh setting for fresh ideas. And but I'm sure that everybody who likes Battle Brothers will find something in MENACE as well.
Could you tell us about the sci-fi setting of MENACE?
The setting basically is a futuristic one with spacefaring, and you end up in a system that is cut off from the core worlds, like the classical core worlds, where you act basically as a space sheriff, so to speak. And in general, like the setting is, there's this classic mix of retro sci-fi. It's like aliens, like they have to push buttons, but they're still flying through space and to other star systems. So it's not Star Trek touchscreen sci-fi, but it's a very old school, very grounded sci-fi, and this is reflected also in the look of the characters and the tech level of the weaponry. And but we still have the freedom to add like fantastic elements as we see fit.
Were you inspired by the Alien movies and other analog sci-fi media?
Yeah, definitely. We really liked like this very dark 80s sci-fi, which was still on also like action movies like Predator, so in the same vein. But it also had like a little bit of humor as well in it, or like a dark humor as well, which fits like the whole Battle Brothers thing as well. We have the same writer who did all the writing for Battle Brothers, so and with the style and the setting and the characters, people will feel right at home, I think. MENACE will definitely be very brutal as well. So we have like a lot of things happening on the battlefield. People die really easily. If you do like a wrong move, then the whole squad can be gone. So that happens really easily, and is part of the deal as well.
But it's not only like serious, as we mentioned before. It's not hilarious, like people are not cracking jokes all the time, but still they mind like if a squaddy dies in a horrible way, someone might comment like, yeah, he was cheap anyway, so something like this. So sometimes we have it like this, and sometimes we have it a bit more serious and darker, especially with the main enemy in the game, which are like horror, body horror, sci-fi, robot, humans. So we have some horror elements in there and psychological elements as well. But I think the type of humor is very similar to Battle Brothers, yeah.
Why did you go with named characters this time rather than randomly generated grunts?
One of the main issues with Battle Brothers was that these characters always stayed flat, so they never developed an actual character because they couldn't, because they were just procedural. And that at some point it became very obvious that this is not going to work. So we looked at other games, and I especially love Jagged Alliance, where there's a lot of characters. So you don't have the same characters every time you play, but they still have dynamic relations. And we also put a lot of work into these relations, like developing. So the more, for example, you bring like two characters on a mission, you will get events where they start to getting to know each other, and you learn more about these characters, and this keeps things like really fresh and interesting. And also these can die permanently, these characters, so they are not like immune to it, and which we think is really important for the immersion and to keep things serious, and that you don't have like unkillable people there.
If characters can permanently die, how badly do you have to do in Menace before you run out of people?
I think we're going to start the early access with around like 16 squad leaders, and for later on we aim to have a total of 26, maybe more. And given that in a battle you start out with probably around 4 of them, and it can go up to maybe 10. And losing one is not that easy, because every time somebody gets downed, you have like a couple of turns time to stabilize and rescue them, and then they will be injured and so on. So having them permanently die is pretty rare, but at the same time it's not that bad. So you can lose at least 10 of these characters until it gets to be a serious problem.
Can you talk about the structure of the game leading into missions?
Once you arrive in the wayback system, there is an amount of planets, and each planet has like its different biome and faction. So, for example, one planet is called Mog, and there's usually like a desert environment. And these factions will then request your help. So they will give you like a sort of a cry for help that you should come over and help them with some pirate problem. And these operations are also timing out, so you have to manage a little bit like whom you help first, or sometimes you cannot help somebody and then your relationship with them will suffer. And if you help them out with the pirate problem, you will increase the trust with them, and then they will help you upgrade your ship, because you are cut off from your logistics, of course, so you have to rely on the locals. These operations are basically a connection of missions, and that's procedurally generated. So in first it's only 3 missions deep, but then later on it goes up to 5, and it gets more and more complex.
What's the narrative structure of Menace?
It has an actual story and an actual ending as well. So the story is, of course, about the menace and how it comes into the system and how people react to it, and what you can do to stop it. The efforts to stop the enemy will actually hinge on your efforts. And at the same time, we try to keep these story beats as minimal and as least invasive as possible, because we don't want players to think, I have to do this again, and it's the exact same mission. We don't want that to happen. We want to have it as procedurally as possible, while giving like some structure and some guidance to the whole thing. Replayability is like our number one thing. So all the battle maps, like the missions, the mission rewards, the operations, the maps themselves, the enemy compositions, the troops, like what you're getting, like in terms of equipment, and all of that is procedural. And so you can play it like over and over again and try different tactics, and you definitely end up somewhere else. And also we have so many squad leaders. So every playthrough you have like a different combination of them maybe, and then you see like newer interactions between them and learn more about like new characters, so to keep things fresh.
What is it about this genre of game that appeals to you so much?
First of all, we really love turn-based strategy games or turn-based tactics games. This is what we love and what we want to play, because we want to sit down with a coffee and think about what we're doing, and not like this hectic, super adrenaline rush gameplay. And also, as Jan mentioned at the beginning, like the most important thing for our games is like, first of all, the replayability, then your choices, that it's a sandbox, like a game sandbox. We as designers, we put up a challenge for you, but we don't design the solution for this challenge. Like, it's up to you. We give you a toolbox and now come up with a solution. So this is absolutely essential, and this is what we love about these games. Yeah.
One aspect to Menace that wasn't really like that in Battle Royals, and that's what I would call army building. So we are big like Warhammer fans as well, and I really love the army building, like the theory craftings, like thinking about, okay, what item to give to what character. And this is something that you really will find in Menace as well, where especially as you get later into the game, you have so many items, so many options, that each player would be able to build basically their own army and see like their own tactics come to life. And also this theory crafting and thinking about like what to try out next is like really big part of the fun for me.
How were you inspired by tabletop and wargaming?
We've been playing games like for whole life, like pen and paper and even live action role play, and a lot of Warhammer 40k, and Paul just got back into the old world, like Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah. For me personally, I really like the turn-based structure of games, because it gives so much order to something that's in reality is really chaotic. And it creates these little pauses and spaces that you can fill out with your fantasy, where you can anticipate what's going to happen and play through different scenarios. And if you actually predict what's going to happen and do follow the right course of action, it's really big satisfaction.
Warhammer Tabletop is actually not as well known as I expected it to be amongst gamers, video gamers. MENACE draws a lot of inspiration from the actual, not from the Warhammer universe only, but especially from the actual Warhammer Tabletop game, with the deployment zones, with the point limits, with the squad system, with the squad leaders that don't wear helmets, with a squad has one special weapon and a lot of squad weapons, and with the mechs and the customization and the equipment cards, and it's the objectives. It's actually it draws actually a lot of inspiration, not from other video games, but from tabletop games, and especially Warhammer 40k. Yeah, absolutely.
Who is your target audience for MENACE?
We don't have the illusion of our games ever being mainstream, because as Paul already said, turn-based strategy is a niche. It's XCOM basically broke out of the niche, but now it fell back in, and there's nobody filling the void. But we think that within the realm of turn-based combat or tactics games, it has the chance to appeal to a lot of people, because everybody can find something different in it. Because somebody will enjoy the army building, somebody will enjoy the RPG elements and reading about the characters, somebody will just enjoy the graphics or the destruction or maybe the brutality as well.
Contact.
How do you see this in relation to XCOM and the direction XCOM took?
For me, the main issue with the newer XCOM games was that they were so much more on the puzzle side and on the gamey side, and less on the simulation, which is things like shots not being actually modeled, and equipment being very simplified, and the ammunition system. And so for me, it was a great game, but it was not simulation-like enough for me personally. And also the scope is very different. So for MENACE we have squads of up to 9 people, plus vehicles, mechs, multiple, and the whole battlefield is a much bigger, and it's a little bit more like a war game compared to a small unit tactics game.
I think this is one of the core things that you mentioned, is that it's great that XCOM was so simplified, because you can get into it very easily and play it very fast. But the more you simplify something and you move away from a simulation, you lose the ability to create stories, because there's you limit the number of things that can happen. You cannot hit your own guys in XCOM, maybe with a grenade, but there's not a stray bullet that kills one of your own guys, or they flee, or something wacky happens. So it's very limited, and the more you reduce the systems and you more simplify the systems, the less stories are going to be generated, in my opinion. So if you are more on the simulation side, a lot more things can happen. You can run out of ammunition, you can resupply, but then you have to do this and that, and all of a sudden you have a big story developing during gameplay, because you have so many moving parts that so many things can happen that you can talk about. I think this is for me personally the core difference. But yeah, we get compared to it a lot, because also a lot of people don't really know anything else besides XCOM, and there is not much else besides XCOM.
If MENACE looks like something you'd like to get your teeth stuck into, you can go over to Steam and wishlist the game right now. For more previews on the latest games, as well as in-depth developer interviews, reviews and more, subscribe to PC Gamer.